The Psychology of Money, Lesson 14. You will change. Long term planning is harder than it seems because people's goal and desires change over time. I grew up with a friend who came from neither privilege nor natural intellect but was the hardest working guy I knew. These people have a lot to teach because they have an unfiltered understanding of every inch of the road to success. His life's mission and dream as a teenager was to be a doctor. To say the odds were stacked against him is being charitable. No reasonable person at the time would consider it a possibility. But he pushed, and a decade older than his classmate, he eventually became a doctor. How much fulfillment comes from the starting from nothing, bulldozing your way to the top of the medical school and achieving one of the most noble profession against all odds. I spoke to 2 years ago. The conversation went like this: me, long time no talk. How you doing? Him, awful career. Me, aha, well, him, awful career man. This went on for 10 minutes. The stress and us had worn him into the ground. He seemed as disappointed in where he is today as he was driven towards where he wanted to be 15 years ago. An underpinning of psychology is that people are poor forecasters of their future selves. Imagining a goal is easy and fun. Imagining a goal in the context of the realistic life stresses that grows with competitive pursuits is something entirely different. This has a big impact on our ability to plan for future financial goals. Every 5 years old boy want to drive a tractor. When they grow up, few jobs look better in the eyes of a young boy whose idea of a good job begins and ends with vroom vroom beep beep big tractor here I come. Then many grow up and realize that driving a tractor maybe is not the best career. Maybe they want something more prestigious or lucrative. So as a teenager, they dream of being a lawyer. Now they think they know their plan is set. Now school and its cost. Here we come. Then, as a lawyer, they face such long working hours that they rarely see their families. So perhaps they take a power paying job with flexible hours. Then they realize that childcare is so expensive that it consumes most of their paychecks and they opt to be a stay at home parent. This, they conclude, is finally the right choice. Then at age 70, they realize that a lifetime of staying home means they are unprepared to afford retirement. Many of us went through life on a similar trajectory. 27% of college grads have a job related to their major according to the Federal Reserve. 29% of stay at home parents have a college degree. Few likely regret their education, of course, but we should acknowledge that a new parent in their 30s may think about life goals in a way their 18 years old self making career goals would never imagine. Long term financial planning is essential, but things change both the world around you and your own goals and desires. It is one thing to say we don't know what the future holds. It is another to admit that you yourself don't know today what you will even want in the future. And the truth is, few of us do. It is hard to make enduring long term decisions when your view of what you will want in the future is likely to shift. The end of history illusion is that psychologists call the tendency for people to be keenly aware of how much they have changed in the past, but to underestimate how much their personalities, desires, and goals are likely to change in the future. Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert once said, at every stage of our lives, we make decisions that will profoundly influence the lives of the pupil we are going to become. And then, when we become those pupil, we are not always thrilled with the decision we made. So, young people pay good money to get tattoos removed that teenagers paid good money to get. Middle aged people rush to divorce, people who young adults rush to marry. Oldest adults work hard to lose what middle aged adults work hard to gain on and on and on. All of us, he said, are walking around with an illusion that our personal history has just come to an end, that we have just recently become the pupil that we were always meant to be and will be for the rest of our life. We tend to never learn this lesson. Gilbert's research shows people from age 18 to 68 underestimate how much they will change in the future. You can see how this can impact a long term financial plan. Charlie Munger says the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. But how do you not interrupt a money, plan a career, investment, spending, budgeting, whatever, when what you want out of life changes? It is hard. Part of the reason people like Ronald Reid, the wealthy janitor we met earlier in the book, and Warren Buffett become so successful is because they kept doing the same things for decades on end, letting compounding run wild. But many of us evolve so much over a lifetime that we don't want to keep doing the same things for decades on end or anything close to it. So rather than 180 something year life spam or money has perhaps four distinct 20 years block. I know young people who purposefully live austere lives with little income and they are perfectly happy with it. Then there are those who work their tails off to pay for a life of luxury and they are perfectly happy with that. Both have risks, the former risk being unprepared to raise a family or fund retirement, the later risk regret that you spent your youthful and healthy years in a cubicle. There is no easy solution to this problem. Tell a 5-year-old boy he should be a lawyer instead of a tractor driver, and he will disagree with every cell in his body. But there are two things to keep in mind when making what you think are long term decisions. We should avoid the extreme ends of financial planning, assuming you will be happy with a very low income or choosing to work endless hours in pursuit of a high one increases the odds that you will one day find yourself at a point of regret. The fuel of the end of history illusion is that people adapt to most circumstances, so the benefits of an extreme plan, the simplicity of having hardly anything, or the thrill of having almost everything wear off. But the downsides of those extremes, not being able to afford retirement or looking back at life spent devoted to chasing dollars, become enduring regrets. Regrets are especially painful when you abandon a previous plan, feel like you have to run in the other direction twice as fast to make up for the lost time. Compounding works best when you can give a plan years or decades to grow. This is true for not only savings but careers and relationship. Endurance is key, and when you consider our tendency to change who we are over time, balance at every point in your life becomes a strategy to avoid future regrets and encourage endurance. Aiming at every point in your working life to have moderate annual savings, moderate free time, no more than a moderate commute, and at least moderate time with your family increases the odds of being able to stick with a plan and avoid regret than if any one of those things fall to extreme sides of the spectrum. We should also come to accept the reality of changing our minds. Some of the most miserable workers I have met are people who stay loyal to a career only because it is field they picked when deciding on a college major at age 18. When you accept the end of history illusion, you realize that the odds of picking a job when you are not old enough to drink that you will still enjoy when you are old enough to qualify for social security are low. The trick is to accept the reality of change and move on as soon as possible. Jason Zwick, the Wall Street Journal investment columnist, worked with psychologist Daniel Kahneman on writing Kahneman's book Thinking Fast and Slow. Zwick once told a story about a personality quick of Kahneman's that served him well. Nothing amazed me more about Danny than his ability to detonate what we had just done. Zweig wrote he and Kamen could work endlessly on a chapter, but the next thing you know, Kohlenman sends a version so utterly transformed that it is recognizable. It begins differently, it ends differently, it incorporates anecdotes and evidence you never would have thought of it. It draws on research that you have never heard of. When I asked Danny how he could start again as if we had never written on earlier draft, Zwick continued, he said, the words I have never forgotten. I have no sunk cost. Sunk cost anchoring decision to past effort that can't be refunded are a devil in a world where people change over time. They make our future selves prisoners to our past. Differentials, it is the equivalent of a stranger making major life decisions for you. Embracing the idea that financial goals made when you were a different person should be abandoned without mercy versus put on the life support and dragged on can be a good strategy to minimize future regret. This quicker it is done, the sooner you can get back to compounding. Next, let's talk about compounding price of admission.